Hey, I'm golf broadcaster Matt Adams. The updated and expanded second edition of my book, The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments, is now available. Readers can expect to march with Arnie's Army at the 1960 U.S. Open, relive Jack Nicklaus's remarkable 1986 Masters win, and be amazed by the Tiger Slam. The Golf Round I'll Never Forget, Golf's Biggest Stars Recall Their Finest Moments. Pick it up where fine books are sold, including BarnesandNoble.com and Amazon.com.
This Day in Sports History. This Day in Sports History is a member of the Sports History Podcast Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sports. Learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. It's June 12th, and on this day in 1970, Dock Ellis pitched a no-hitter under the influence of acid. Maybe. Ellis's Pittsburgh Pirates were in San Diego on this day, and this was Game 1 of a doubleheader. The Pirates were on a West Coast swing and had just wrapped up a two-game series with San Francisco. The 11th had been an off day, and Ellis asked manager Danny Murtaugh for permission to take a day off to go see some friends in Los Angeles. Murtaugh said yes. Ellis said before he got on the plane to L.A., he dropped acid, took the flight, and was able to navigate to his friend's house. Well, Ellis lost track of time. After waking up on the morning of the 12th, Ellis thought it was still the 11th, and he dropped more acid. His friend's girlfriend told him he needed to get moving. He had to pitch in a few hours. He had a plane to catch and a drive to the ballpark. He was a bit confused. He was sure that it was still the 11th. When she was finally able to convince him that it was actually the 12th, he got moving. He showed up to San Diego's Jack Murphy Stadium about 90 minutes before the first pitch. Ellis then claims he found his drug supplier at the ballpark and received amphetamines and popped a couple. When he got on the mound that afternoon, he said he couldn't really see the batters, only which side of the plate they were on. In his retelling of his story many years later, he says that at one point he believed President Richard Nixon was the home plate umpire. At another point, he thought guitarist Jimi Hendrix was at the plate swinging his guitar instead of a bat. There were a few times he thought the ball coming back to him from the catcher was as big as a basketball. Other times he thought it was only as big as a golf ball. One ball that was hit back towards the mound, he dove out of the way of, only for it to actually be a slow roller that the third baseman handled for the out. But no matter who was at the plate, which side they were swinging from, or whether a president was calling balls and strikes, he was unhittable on this day. He did issue 8 walks, and he hit a batter, but no Padre reached base on a hit. He struck out 6, including the final batter of the game to secure the 2-0 win and his first and only no-hitter of his career. Now, this is a story that is part of baseball lore, but there are some who question the veracity of this story. All the details of this day come strictly from Ellis. What motivation does he have to lie? Well, none, really, that I can figure out. Major League Baseball hasn't released much footage of this particular game. What I found is about 40 seconds long and includes a play where he covered the bag on a ground ball to first that he handled with grace. Now, Doc talked about that specific play and said that when he touched first for the out, he thought he'd just scored a touchdown. So, whether it is true or not, I'm not sure it really matters. It's been woven into the fabric of baseball for 54 years, and there really isn't any way to prove definitively one way or another whether it's true or not. And it is a fun story to think about and relive. Also on this day in 1986, weather played a huge role in a wacky play in Toronto. The Detroit Tigers were in town against the Blue Jays. At this point in their history, the Blue Jays played at Exhibition Stadium, which was not too far from Lake Ontario. That made it susceptible to cold temperatures, high winds, and apparently heavy, dense fog. In the 7th inning with 2 men on, Kelly Gruber hit a fly ball into center field. Under normal weather conditions, it's a can of corn fly ball, easy out, no problem. But fog had just rolled into the stadium, and it was really dense in the outfield. Tigers center fielder Pat Sheridan knew it was somewhere in his general vicinity, but he just couldn't see it. It was lost in the fog. The ball rolled nearly to the warning track before Sheridan could track it down, but by that point, Gruber was rounding third and heading for home. It was a 3-run in-the-park home run. The game was delayed after this play, and then after a 30-minute wait was called on account of fog. The play didn't have much of an effect on the outcome. The Jays beat the Tigers 9-0. On this day in 2003, it was an inspirational day for a lot of people who turned in to watch the U.S. Open. It was the first round at Olympia Fields, and the 53-year-old Tom Watson was not listed as one of the contenders to win the tournament. But he wound up having the best round of the day, and that was due in part to his caddy. Now, the relationship between golfer and caddy is crucial. Get the wrong advice, club choice, distance read, or if there's something personal between that team, well, it can have an adverse effect. The other end of the spectrum, with looper and pro working in close tandem, can produce magical results. Well, Watson's caddy of 30 years, Bruce Edwards, had been diagnosed with Lou Gehrig's disease 5 months earlier, but he was on the bag on this day. He looked frail and weak, but he was determined to carry the bag the distance. Watson shot a 65, which included an eagle that he holed out from 171 yards, and then he drained a 45-foot bomb for a birdie that lingered dramatically on the lip before dropping. The crowd, aware of Edwards' situation, chanted "Bruce" all the way around the course. It was a magical day for both golfer and caddy. Watson's 65 tied him for the lead after the first round. He was the oldest to ever hold the lead at the U.S. Open. Edwards said after the round, "We turned back the clock today. It was wonderful. It was a blast. Not bad for old folks, huh?" Watson shot 72 the next day, followed that up with 75 on Saturday and another 72 on Sunday to finish 28th. Bruce Edwards died less than a year later at the age of 49. In 1930, Max Schmelling won the heavyweight title in an unusual way. Schmelling and Jack Sharkey were fighting in New York's Yankee Stadium. It was a fight to determine the champion after the retirement of Gene Tunney. 80,000 people were there on this night to watch the American Sharkey against the German Schmelling. The fight was a good one in the early rounds, with many believing Sharkey in the lead. At the end of the fourth round, Schmelling stepped in and delivered a right hook that Sharkey dodged and then countered with a hard left. But the left-handed shot was below the belt. It appeared to be unintentional, but intent did not lessen the pain that Schmelling immediately felt. He dropped to the canvas and writhed in pain for several seconds, appealing to the referee Jim Crowley and to his corner that the punch had been below the belt. Crowley never started a count, but instead went to consult with the ringside judge. It was concluded the punch had been below the belt and was a foul. After a few more seconds, Crowley declared the fight over and Schmelling as the winner as a result of the foul and the new heavyweight champion of the world. It was the first time a heavyweight title had been awarded due to a foul, and Schmelling became the first European to win the heavyweight belt. And in 2011, Jenson Button pulled off an amazing win at the Canadian Grand Prix. He started 7th on the grid on this day, but on lap 8, he and teammate Lewis Hamilton made contact. The collision ended Hamilton's day, and Button was assessed a drive-through penalty, which affected his track position. On lap 34, Button made contact with Fernando Alonso. That wreck ended Alonso's day and punctured Button's tire. Another pit stop for Button, and when he exited, he was in last place. By lap 70, Button had driven through the field and had moved into second place. When Sebastian Vettel overcooked a corner, Button was able to punch his McLaren through that gap and take the lead, and then take the checkered flag for the win, coming from worst to first to claim the Canadian Grand Prix. Time now for today's non-sports Did You Know? There is a public bus in Bristol, England, called the Poo Bus that is powered by human and household waste. And I know one of your first thoughts is that you wouldn't want to be driving behind it, but the emissions from the Poo Bus are actually cleaner than a diesel-powered bus. That's all for today. I'll have more tomorrow on This Day in Sports History. This Day in Sports History is a member of the Sports History Podcast Network, your headquarters for the yesteryear of your favorite sports. Learn more at sportshistorynetwork.com. This has been an original Thrive Suite production.
Hey there, sports history fan. This is Arnie Chapman, a.k.a. the Football History Dude, and I hope that you enjoyed this recent episode presented by the Sports History Network and were able to learn some good old-fashioned sports history knowledge nuggets. I started the Sports History Network back in 2020 with the mission to help podcasters find a community of like-minded sports history nerds, as well as helping aspiring podcasters to start their own shows. We have a little bit over 30 shows on the network right now covering all sorts of sports history, but as far as I'm concerned, we're just at the toothpick in the ocean moment, that can't even figure it out because there's so much more coming. We wanted to create the ultimate headquarters for sports yesteryear, starting with Podcast Network and our website, but we're going to continue to move into other mediums as well. And here's the cool part, because we want you to be part of our team. So if you're interested in starting your own podcast, or maybe being a guest on one of our shows, or who knows, maybe even writing an article for us over on the website. Seriously, all you gotta do is reach out to us on the contact page over at sportshistorynetwork.com. You can be as technologically savvy as a Neanderthal tapping on a stone trying to figure out this whole hieroglyphics thing back in the day. Again, it doesn't matter, because even if you don't understand the whole podcast space, we have a production team that can pretty much help you out with doing everything. All you gotta do, head over to sportshistorynetwork.com, head to the contact page, fill it out. That message goes right to me, and I'll reach out to you as soon as I can. But for now, dude, I'm through if you're through.